Hello, my name is Jason JROCK Houston, and you're listening to Chaotic Riffs Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.chaoticriffs.com. It's my great pleasure to be speaking with Art of Anarchy guitar player Bumblefoot. How are you doing tonight, Bumblefoot?
Good. How's it going?
It's going great now. Many people, of course, know you, from your time in Guns N' Roses, and of course your great solo work. Now, Art of Anarchy, this was a band that came together a couple years ago. Could you tell us the story of how you first got involved with the project?
It goes way back. It really goes back about 20 years.
Oh, really? Wow.
John and Vince Voda, the twin brothers. One plays guitar, the other plays drums. Back when they were teenagers, I had a studio, and they would come in with their bands that they had locally in New York, and I would record them, and we always stayed friends all this time. And then 2011, they hit me up. They said, hey, we wrote these 10 songs that we feel like we just want to make the album that we always wanted to make. Because back then, they didn't really get to do that. They always had to compromise what they did to appease some producer or someone that was just trying to tell them what they needed to sound like and who they needed to be. And now they just wanted to do something that was real to them and felt authentic. So they had these 10 songs that they wrote, just the drum part and guitar part.
Wow.
So in 2011 this was, and I brought them into the studio and started laying the stuff, and as we were laying it down, he'd say, why don't you lay a guitar solo on there? So, what would you do here? And why don't you play something there? So now it's the three of us putting this thing together, and the idea was to have different singers singing on different songs. And the first person we got was Scott Weiland.
Wow.
And he did the song Till the Dust Is Gone. And from there, he ended up doing the whole record.
Wow.
4 consistent people on this thing. And then John Moyer from Disturbed, the bass player, he joined. And now it's 5 consistent people on it. So it went from just being the dream album that they always wanted to make for themselves, just for the love of creating music and expressing yourself as a musician. That's becoming something more.
Now let me ask you, Bumblefoot. So it started out with just you and the 2 guys, and then you got the other musicians. Now, when you guys started writing the material initially, did you have a sound you were going for, or did the band sound kind of just develop as you guys got into the studio and you added the other players?
Yeah, it really just developed as it went along. There was the initial foundation of what the Voda brothers wrote.
Yeah.
And then as each person put their own thing on there, it just added another layer of complexity and depth and just everything that happens when you collaborate with people. Everything that another person brings to the table that you don't have yourself.
Yeah.
From there, we got a deal on Century Media.
Wow.
And in June of 2015, that first album came out. But Scott Weiland did not want to continue with it, and that was that. So we had to find a new singer or just pack it in and let it die. We decided to look for a new singer, and the first person we reached out to, the top of the list person, was Scott Stapp. And 2 months later, we were jamming with him. We met for the first time. That was August of 2015.
Wow.
And we just jammed in a rehearsal room and just made up stuff on the spot and just felt it out and vibed out. And then we saw that it was going to work after we got to know each other a bit.
And now, once Scott got involved, I was curious. Of course, everybody knows him as a frontman for Creed. Did you have any concerns about the stuff sounding Creed-like, or was it a matter of just going in there and kind of seeing what came out?
Well, his voice is always going to remind people of Creed because that was his band.
Yeah.
Like, Art of Anarchy is the only band he's ever been in besides Creed. So that comparison, that connection will always be there.
Yeah.
But I think musically, a lot of it doesn't sound like Creed.
At all,
yeah. It would fall into that ballpark. But for the most part, as everyone is just being who they are and doing what they do, I think that, it sounds like its own thing. But having Scott Stapp singing on there will always make people think, oh yeah, the singer of Creed.
Oh yeah, and
the
there's
connection will always be there.
And and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think like with any project, when you get any number of players together, I kind of think each guy kind of brings something to the table. And with that being said, so once the first album came out and things kind of fell apart with Scott Weiland, I mean, you guys must kind of been disappointed. But did you guys play any live dates to support that album?
No.
No.
We didn't do any shows. The first thing we did was we started working with Scott's staff and started building from the ground up. And the five of us, the following month after we all met, we spent a good 2 weeks in a room together and just wrote every day. And we wrote half the album in that time.
Wow.
September of 2015, the end of September. And that's where half of the album came from. And we did it the way a band is supposed to do it. Just everybody being an equal member, a partner, all contributing and all working together and just jamming and just seeing what comes out and letting it form itself.
And that's got to be a great feeling for somebody like you. I mean, to be involved in a band where it's such a collaborative effort. Because I mean, coming from a band like Guns N' Roses, for example, in your case, where I really like what you did with them, but again, that's kind of like Axl Rose's band, and you're kind of in somebody else's band. Where in a project like this, I imagine you get a little more of a say of as far as being a little more involved with the writing and all that. So that's got to be
everybody was completely involved in every step of the way and every aspect of it as equals. We all wrote together. We all brought ideas. We all had a say in every single thing. Anytime there's a decision to be made, we all reach out to each other. I mean, it truly is a band. And, it just dawned on me not too long ago. This is the first time in my life that I've actually been in a band that's like that. I mean, I've been in bands since I was 6 years old. I had my first band.
Yeah.
So maybe that one was kind of like that. But as far as being
like an equal member,
professional musician, but as far as doing that, this is the first time ever that every single person is contributing and being a partner in it, and no one is taking a back seat, and no one is slacking, and no one, it's not like one person cares more than the other.
Yeah.
Like, it really is the first time, and it's great.
And did you guys kind of record this album the old school way, where you're all in the same room together? And what was the recording process like?
Well, the first demos were like that. Started like that. Then, to keep things clean, we had just the rough tracks that the drummer played to, and then we built on top of his drum.
Yeah. And I love the name of the band, Art of Anarchy. I mean, that's just such a cool sounding name. How did you guys come up with that?
Well, that was, back a couple of years, and it was, I'm trying to think of who exactly thought of that. We all had a list of names, like we said. All right, everyone come up with 10 names. And then everyone chooses their favorite 3 from each other's list of 10, and whatever were the most chosen names, there was a list of that, and then we choose from that, and ultimately we came up with Art of Anarchy, and, music is art, and there were no rules to it. We weren't, the whole way that the thing came about was just for the love of making music and doing whatever you want, and that's how it was from the first album.
Yeah.
No one told anyone what to do. Everything was, here's the canvas, and you slop paint on it, and whatever you think works, there you go, that's it. So it wasn't being governed in any way, anything like that. So really, as far as the rules go, there wasn't anarchy to it, at least how it all started out. So the name kind of fit.
Yeah, I mean, anarchy, like you're saying, is kind of like a rock and roll attitude to me, no rules or anything, and that's kind of what it's all about. Now, I got to ask, initially, like you and the 2 brothers got together, you're kind of getting together with some of your longtime friends, but because of other guys that are involved, some people have dubbed this a supergroup. How do you feel about that, being tagged a supergroup? Yeah, labels.
Pegs.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's five guys that all make music and all do what they do and did what they did, and I don't know. To me, it feels a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fresh project, I think, for in a lot of ways. Now, I was kind of curious. So you guys are on your second album, and anytime a band goes through you change, especially the front man, that's a major thing. But Scott Strapp, he's got a huge fan base of his own, and I think stuff I've heard off the new album, you guys really kick some major ass with this new stuff. But I was curious. I have seen that you guys have some live dates, and there's going to be some touring behind this. But I was curious because you have a new singer. When you guys go out and play, are you going to be playing stuff off both of the albums, or primarily just the new album?
Well, mostly the new album because it just came out and we really want to support it. So we'll be doing everything from the new album, all the 10 songs on there, and we're getting together to rehearse this week, and we're going to try out some of the older stuff.
Yeah, just to see
what works.
Yeah.
And just, we got to figure out what is going to sound best for the people. We don't want to play a song just because it's from the first album and feel like we have to. Like, we want to do something that sounds good. So we got to feel that out. So we got a couple of ideas we've been tossing around as far as pieces of songs or an entire song.
Yeah.
We're just going to get together and see how it goes.
Yeah, I guess kind of what I was asking is, a lot of bands that go through a situation like that, take a band like, Black Sabbath, like Ronnie James Dio comes into the picture and they don't perform any of Ozzy material for various reasons. Now you guys are only on your second album, so is it just a matter of, if Scott's able to sing kind of those tunes the way Scott did, Scott Weiland did, or is it just a matter of, would you simply ignore those tunes just because, Scott Weiland has passed on?
It's not simple, The fact that he died, it adds weight to those songs in the sense of paying respect, but also, there's a lot to it.
It's just a matter of what works, I guess, and I guess you guys will see what works when you hit the road.
Anything Scott Stapp sings, he's going to make his own.
Of course,
and
yeah.
So that's no problem. He will take a song and he will make it sound good.
Oh yeah, I mean
nothing. Where we sing too.
Yeah.
So as far as all the harmonies and all that stuff that was on the first record, we can handle that as well.
Oh yeah, I mean I think don't get me wrong. I mean definitely Scott's both Scott Weiland and Scott Strapp, they're both really great talented vocalists in their own rights. But I just kind of hate sometimes when bands they go through a lineup change and they kind of ignore older material just for whatever reason. But I think it'd be kind of cool if you guys could do stuff off of both albums. I guess, like you said, when you hit the road, you'll see what works and what doesn't. Are there any plans to shoot any videos for any of these songs?
Yeah, we're shooting another video on Wednesday.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, coming right up.
And I got to ask a little personal stuff about you, Bumblefoot. Now, you're really a great, huge talent as far as a guitar player. When I hear the stuff you guys of what you've done, I was curious, how old were you when you first started playing the guitar, and who were some of your heroes growing up?
Well, I was 5 years old and I heard the Kiss Alive album.
Oh wow!
And as soon as I heard that, that's what made me want to play music, and that's what made me want to be in a band. But also hearing the Beatles and all the production and the strings and everything that went into it just made me love music. And those are my first two.
Wow.
And the Beatles. And so I heard the Kiss Alive album when I was 5. By the time I was 6, I was already working and doing it. I had a band together with an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old. We were writing songs, making demos, playing shows in my backyard, in the basement, and the school across the street. And we were hand-making merch and doing everything a band does. We had a big logo hanging on the back wall that we drew with crayons onto a big sheet, and we were just following what our...
Well, that's one thing you and I have in common. I'm a huge Kiss fan. I got to ask, is it even possible for you to have a favorite Kiss album?
a favorite Kiss album. Well, I'm definitely one of the old Kiss guys.
Yeah.
So for me, everything from, you got the first album, you got Hotter Than Hell, Dressed to Kill, Kiss Alive, Rock and Roll Over, Destroyer, Love Gun, Alive 2, the solo albums.
You really can't go wrong with all of it. That's why I said I don't know if it's possible to pick one.
All of that right there could be lumped into just a favorite. But you know what? I like The Elder. I did.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they don't give that album enough love.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story about that album. For years when I was a kid, that album was out of print, and you just could not get it anywhere. And then, I thought, okay, that's one album I got to get in my collection. And then, a couple years down the line, they finally re-released it. And I thought, okay, it's not a great album, but it's not a bad album at the same time. I like you, I dig some of the stuff on there. I just think it's a different type of a Kiss record, but it's cool for what it is. Yeah, and as far as your guitar playing, would you consider yourself to be a self-taught player, or did you take lessons?
Oh, no, I studied a lot. I had all one-on-one teachers, good 8 years of solid study of all the academics and jazz and classical and music theory and songwriting and everything, and I taught it as well. And I continued teaching all the way up until I became a professor at SUNY Purchase College, teaching music production. And,
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you ever see any of your students that you taught go on to have any kind of success, or did any of them ever did you ever invite any of them to come to any of your shows and check out what you were doing?
Oh, sure, yeah. Stayed in touch with a lot of them, and some have gone on to do great things. There's a guy, David Abraham, out in India that has a really cool band. And the best one, and they just happen to be my favorite band, no bias there at all. The band is just amazing. The guitarist Tom Manda of the band Thank You Scientist.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. Okay. Never heard of him, but I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. Man, you got to check it out. The most incredible band. It's a 7-piece band. Drums, bass, guitar, vocals, 2 horn players, and a violinist. And the music is everything from just metal to funk to Zappa kind of craziness. And it is the most incredible music that just the melodies are beautiful, but the intellectual side is just over the top. It just completely just makes your brain buzz, every part of it.
Yeah, and I got to ask you, Bumblefoot, as a kind of a guitar hero yourself, in many people's eyes, one thing I miss, back in the 70s, 80s when I was growing up on music, one thing I really loved was all the bands back in the day had great guitar heroes. I mean, you had guys like, Richie Blackmore and, Rudolph and Michael Schenker and, Brian May, and a lot of these, in the 80s you had guys like Warren DeMartini, Randy Rhoads, of course, and Eddie Van Halen. A lot of the newer bands today, they go out of their way like, we don't do guitar solos. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Well, I think that a lot of times guitar solos become very connected to a certain style of music, and if a new fashionable style comes into play, they try and disassociate a bit from the previous style that they don't want to be connected to, so they may just disregard some of those elements.
Yeah.
So that happens.
Yeah, and that what do you?
Yeah. I mean, the guitar solos are alive and well these days.
Yeah.
Some great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and also unless you're like Steve Vai or Joe Satriani type player, a lot of those instrumental albums, oftentimes they sound like like an Angry Bee or something. 10 tracks of somebody playing like the same tune. But you take a guy like you or even Steve Vai, like we were mentioning, or Joe Satriani. To me, those guys, they just got such a finesse to their playing that they're able to keep the listener's attention. And what I love about some of the solo work you have done is you don't just simply release like an instrumental album. You're a guy that's also got the ability to sing lead as well as be a dynamite guitar player. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about some of your solo work, and how long did it take you to develop or feel comfortable with your ability to sing?
Well, I sang from the day I started writing songs, and they started playing guitar.
Yeah.
To me, it was all about songs, and I just needed tools to make those songs. And that was it. Originally, I wanted to be a drummer.
Wow.
And my brother wanted to be a drummer, so he got to be the drummer. And then I wanted to be a bass player, but I was just too young. 6 years old. There were no kid-sized basses at the local music store, and I couldn't handle a full-size bass. So I started on a little kid-sized nylon string little guitar and stuck with it. But the whole time, it was all about having the tools to make songs.
Yeah, see, that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. Like, again, we're talking about what huge Kiss fans we are. One thing I've always loved about Kiss is, people say they're not the greatest musicians. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But for their limited skills of what they have, one thing I'll say about Gene and Paul, they are great songwriters. I mean, they know how to write a hit song. All those classic Kiss songs, they've got great hooks, and that's why, we're still 40 years later hearing those songs on the radio.
I think so.
Yeah.
And a good song is going to be timeless.
Yeah, and what's interesting about a guy like you, that's as great of a guitar player as you are, and you're also got the ability to sing lead. I often think many times if you've got the ability to do that, it's better than bringing in like another guy to sing your tunes, because if you're the guy writing the tunes and you got the ability to sing, I often think you can perform, or you can sing the songs more from the heart if you're the guy who wrote those tunes.
Well, I guess it depends. It's different for everyone.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what you write and what you picture, because sometimes you could write songs that you picture another singer singing, and it's almost like you're writing for that singer and not for yourself, even though maybe the lyrics are from your heart.
Yeah.
But you just imagine another singer singing it. So there's really no rules to it,
Yeah.
It's just whatever you want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would imagine that you must have that feeling somewhat of like, let's take, for example, some of your songs that ended up on Chinese Democracy. I mean, how cool is that to write a tune, and it ends up on a Guns N' Roses album. You have Axl Rose singing, one of the tunes you wrote.
Well, with Chinese Democracy, I joined the band before.
So all those tunes were actually written?
Those songs were already written.
Oh, okay.
Those songs were written, but I did write my own guitar parts to them.
Okay.
So I guess I didn't bake the cake, but at least I put like a little flour on the icing here and there.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to ask about your time in Guns N' Roses, I mean, one of the things I really love that you did with the band during your time you were with them is I love the Las Vegas DVD that you guys put out. It was really a great show. That was during when you guys did the residency. Am I correct?
Yeah, that was our first residency. I'm pretty sure that show was it November 16th on 2012, I think it was. And
what amazed me about the show is, when it was first announced that he was getting a new lineup together, people didn't know what to think. But just every time I watch that DVD, I'm not even thinking about the fact that it's not the original lineup. What really impressed me is it was a mixture of the new tunes off of Chinese Democracy and the classic stuff, and between, especially with the guitar playing, between you and you and DJ and Richard, I thought you guys just it was like you were able to perform the classic material as well as the new material, and I didn't really it was a great band. I didn't care if Slash wasn't in the band. I mean, I'm a fan of it all. You know what I mean? But watching that DVD, I just thought it was an amazing show you guys put on.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, and I got to before we wrap this up, I got to ask you because again, I heard some of the stuff off your last solo CD, and the only thing I was kind of disappointed is I know it's mainly released digitally. Do you have any plans to release any of your solo albums like on a physical CD?
Oh, they're all on CD.
Oh, really? Okay. And so you can get them like on Amazon and that, or I guess would it be best to get it through your personal website?
Well, you can do CD Baby, Amazon, but best bet is just go to bumblefoot.com and click on the store button.
And see, that's what I think is great about guys like you, and especially you being involved with a band like Art of Anarchy. I dig when you got bands that are still continuing to put out new music, because a lot of these bands have been around for a while. They're just like, we don't we can just live off the catalog. We don't need to you know, we don't need to put anything new out there. People's not going to buy the CD. So I love the fact that you guys are still. I mean, you're a relatively new band, but I love the fact that you're willing to put out new music.
Oh yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's about being creative.
Yeah, and now, of course, you guys are on your second album, and you're kind of starting over in a way with Scott Trapp as your singer. And I was curious, when you go on tour, are you primarily just going to be performing Art of Anarchy songs, or any chance like we might get a Guns N' Roses tune, or a Disturbed tune, or a Creed tune? Have you guys thought about playing anything from your previous bands?
At this point, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know down the road. If we have to do like a 2-hour show to that point, we can definitely throw in some things from our lives.
Yeah.
But right now, just going out and getting our feet wet, we're just going to focus on this new record mode.
Yeah. And the very last thing I wanted to touch base for, we wrap this up, is I've seen you guys do have some tour dates that were recently announced. Are those going to be headlining shows, or will you be opening for other bands? Will you have an opening band?
Those are all headlining shows, and we have some great opening bands too. Yeah.
Well, great. Well, Bumblefoot, I really enjoyed talking to you today. Before I let you go, is there anything you'd like to say to all the Art of Anarchy fans out there?
Just thank you for listening. Thank you for having me on the show. And that's it.
Yeah, and I'll be sure to let Shauna know when this interview gets posted. And I really enjoyed talking to you. So anytime you'd want to do this down the line, I'd really appreciate getting a chance to talk to you again.
Great. Thanks so much. It was a pleasure.
Okay, take care, my friend. Bye-bye.